Well, good day, everyone. Wally Felt here, along with my partner in crime, Jeremy Crawford, and an overdue edition of Did You Know Southwestern Montana? And we kind of apologize a little bit with our space between segments. We've been kind of bounding around trying to figure out exactly what we want to do. And with the amount of history in southwestern Montana, it's I won't say overwhelming. But like you and I said one day, is we just need to be a little more serious about narrowing in on subjects, and then just do them, and then just move on from there. And we are a little bit late, but this is very important. We want to cover that. We want to look at Memorial Day and the observances in southwestern Montana. You and I are both true patriots at heart, and we were kind of commenting the changes in Memorial Day, and it's just really, I mean, our town is about 120 years old, something like that.
Yeah,
and it's kind of fun to trace how Memorial Day was observed.
Yeah, we can kind of see from the beginning, which, Memorial Day was originally, it was started after the Civil War, and it wasn't called Memorial Day, and we'll get into that in a little while. And basically is what it was the Confederate widows would go out and they would decorate the Confederate soldiers' graves.
Well, and that's, we talked about that before, but do you realize there's like 3 or 4 other stories going around, and why they chose it, and there's more interesting things, because our government, the Lyndon B. Johnson administration, is the one that put the decision down on deciding where Memorial Day first originated, and it's not that accurate, because what you're talking about is not where they were talking about. But once again, we don't want to get too far of ourselves. But okay, so it was, as Jeremy said, it wasn't called Memorial Day. It was called Decoration Day. Now, there was a proclamation by General John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic. And that was kind of a grandiose way of saying the boys in blue, the Union forces, they had their first major Memorial Day observance May 30th. Now, his purpose behind it, and I quote, he says, "For the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion." Now, that verbiage is going to be different when you get below the Mason-Dixon line, because they don't call it the War of Rebellion.
No.
But it was called Decoration Day, and mourners honored the Civil War dead by decorating their graves with flowers. Now, on that first Decoration Day, General James Garfield made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery. There were 5,000 participants helping to decorate the graves of more than 20,000 Civil War soldiers buried in the cemetery. Now, that was the first official, and we need to put quotation marks up, but not the first Memorial Day observance.
No.
The 1868 celebration was inspired by local observances that had taken place in various locations in the 3 years since the end of the Civil War. Although after I put the initial thing together, I discovered there was actually an observance while the Civil War was still going on, which you just talked about the civil, about widow, or civil or Confederate widows.
Yeah.
Putting flowers on the graves of their fallen loved ones. And what a lot of people didn't talk about was the fact that the women saw, they looked over, and there was a smaller cemetery with Union dead. And they, despite the fact their family was killed in the war fighting the Union, they did not think it was fair to those families of those boys that their graves were also not taken care of. So they went over and took care of the Union graves just as well. Now, several of those towns claim to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. One of the local observances occurred 2 years earlier. How about this? In 1866. Carbondale, Illinois, where Logan had delivered the keynote address at an April 29th Decoration Day commemoration in Carbondale, in which Union veterans paraded in tattered uniforms and spread flowers on cemetery graves. Now, several cities have claimed to be the birthplace of Memorial Day: Columbus, Mississippi, Macon, Georgia, Richmond, Virginia, southern towns. But also there was Waterloo, New York, Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, and Carbondale. Now, I'm not sure if you found it out. There was one story going around that some freed slaves in one of these towns decorated the graves of the Union soldiers that were buried there. There's no mention of that in there anywhere. It's kind of like one of those, well, we don't need to really say anything about that.
Yeah, and there was actually a little bit of controversy from something that happened over Labor Day this year with a American Legion post. And I didn't get the whole story, but I think the guy was going to talk about that, and somebody cut his mic.
That's right. I remember reading about that. Yeah, and they were actually reprimanded to the tune of because there was not just one, there was 2 or 3 people involved, and they were in the upper echelon of this American Legion post, and they were all asked to resign.
And I think they actually shut down that post. That was the last thing I heard, was that they were probably going to disband that post.
Well, that's how it should be. In 1966, the federal government, under the direction of President Lyndon B. Johnson, declared Waterloo, New York, the official birthplace of Memorial Day. You want to know the reason why?
It was his hometown?
No, he's a Texas guy.
Okay.
He's a Texas guy. Their logic behind the choice was simple, or so to say. Waterloo first celebrated the day on May 5th, 1866, and then made that day an annual community-wide event during which businesses closed and residents decorated the graves of soldiers with flowers and flags. So they just figured Waterloo had the basic formula to what Memorial Day should be, and so that's designated. But, these other towns we talked about, they all think they should have Memorial Day. And when you read about that, a lot of other towns, in particular in the South, they called it Confederate Memorial Day, and they were all different days.
Yeah.
All different days. Most of them were in the springtime, but they were all different days.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, there's 25 places that claim to have originated the holiday.
And probably the majority of them, they're all 25 different dates probably, too.
Yeah, probably 25 different dates and 25 different names.
Yeah. But by the late 19th century, many communities across the country had begun to celebrate Memorial Day. The day was May 30th, and it was celebrated regardless of which day of the week May 30th fell on. And it's interesting, it's not an official, it hasn't been an official holiday yet.
No.
But businesses closed, schools were out, everything. Yeah. So it's interesting how that worked out. It's like the power of the people. After World War I, observers began to honor the dead of all of America's wars. And after World War I, so we had the Civil War, and we had Union and Confederate. But I noticed in some of the parades, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get into Dillon's commemoration, militia. Yeah. They didn't have National Guard. They had a local militia.
Yeah, they had a state militia that was basically volunteer.
And everybody, and each town had their own state militia. After World War I, as I said, everything was... or observers honored the dead from all of America's wars. Now, I ask you this question, and you know the answer because I've already told you, but could you fathom when I ask you that question of when it became an official American holiday? Did that surprise you of that date?
It did surprise me because I always thought it was a lot later of a holiday, but This is probably one of our newer holidays.
It is 1971. That was the year Congress declared Memorial Day a national holiday to be celebrated the last Monday in May. Now today, Memorial Day is celebrated at Arlington National Cemetery. This is the major national celebration, with a ceremony in which a small American flag is placed on each grave, and it is customary for the president or vice president to give a speech honoring the contributions of the dead and to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And that story is a fun story in itself. More than 5,000 people attend the ceremony annually. And once again, some southern states have set aside a special day for honoring the Confederate dead, which is usually called Confederate Memorial Day. So any final thoughts on a little bit of background on Memorial Day?
It's one of those things where it's a very interesting holiday. I mean, it's something that... the Civil War was the first big war that the United States was in, and sadly it was against ourselves. But, it's kind of hard to believe that after that, there were so many more wars before we actually decided to set it as an official holiday to honor our dead that fought for our country.
And the one thing that I was curious about too, and I didn't dig maybe as deep as I should have, was the names or how other countries do it. Because I know Australia has one.
Yes.
Great Britain has one.
Canada
and I'm sure
has one.
France probably has one. And so, as terrible war is, it's very important that we honor those folks that gave their lives to make our lives just a little bit better.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that there was one country that does have one, like either right before ours or right as ours is going on, but I cannot remember the name of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, while you look for that, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back, and we'll talk about Memorial Day observance in Dillon. We'll be back right after this.
All righty.
Okay, Jeremy, we're back, and now we're going to look at Memorial Day through the years of Dillon. Once again, our community is not very old compared to world communities.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's, when you dig into the old newspapers and stuff, there's not necessarily that many newspaper articles in the very early ones about a ceremony honoring, the war dead, but there are lots of little columns written by people, and they're not necessarily written by Dillon people. They're just, it's like they picked, a freelance writer wrote it, and they're very well written and stuff, but they don't really talk about ceremonies in Dillon. And the one that I found, that one of the earliest, was 1890, and I made a copy of it from the Dillon Tribune, and it says, headline is Memorial Day. Department Commander Ferris issues an order for its fitting observances. The following general order regarding the observance of Memorial Day has been issued by Department Commander Ed F. Ferris and received in this city. Headquarters, Department of Montana, Grand Army of the Republic, and it's Bozeman, Montana, May 4th, 1890. So he's issuing from Bozeman how the Dillon veterans are supposed to celebrate, observe Memorial Day.
Yep.
General Order Number 2. The observance of May 30th as Memorial Day with its beautiful ceremonies is one of the duties particular to our organization, required by the rules and regulations, and it should be performed willingly and in reverent spirit. No more fitting tribute can be offered in memory of our fallen comrades than to decorate their graves with the choicest flowers of springtime, entwined with the evergreen and laurel, crowned with the emblems of the nation, which in its hour of peril they so faithfully defended. That's written very eloquently.
Yes, it is.
Number 2. Invitations should be extended to the Women's Relief Corps and Sons of Veterans, where such organizations are, and to all patriotic and liberty-loving citizens generally to join with us in observing the day. As May 30th is, by law, General Inspection Day for the Montana National Guard, and in order that they may take part in the services, post commanders will, in cities where there are organized companies of Montana National Guards, confer with the commanding officers of such companies and arrange the hour for the memorial ceremonies as not to interfere with the inspection. And in that same Dillon Tribune, there was a note from the post commander. There will be Union, and they don't say Confederate, there will be Union memorial services held in the Opera House, Dillon, Montana, Sunday evening, May 25th, commencing at 8 p.m. The memorial sermon will be delivered by Reverend Josh Wilkes, assisted by the pastors of the Dillon churches, of the different churches of Dillon. It is to be hoped that all of our patriotic and liberty-loving citizens will attend the service and thus perpetuate the memory of those who defended our country in its time of need and who have now answered to that last grand roll call of the Supreme Commander of the universe. As commander of Stedman Post Number 1, I cordially invite all soldiers, whether members of the GAR, once again, Grand Army of the Republic, or not, to join with us in this service, and also the service of decorating the grave of our one comrade, May 30th at 5 p.m. So they have basically two services. They have a church service,
Yep.
and then they have a service 5 days later where they decorate the graves.
Where do you suppose the Opera House was in Dillon?
We talked about this once before, and I'm thinking it was where on the corner here of Montana,
Yeah.
and Helena Street,
Yeah.
where the auto parts store is.
Yep.
So
We're still on the search for that, so if somebody
yeah,
knows.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, now and moving right along. So we call our program Southwestern Montana. So I decided we'd take a little trip over to the Madison. And so in 1896, as reported in the Madisonian, the Custer Post of Sheridan, Montana, issued orders for their Memorial Day observance. And I'm not going to read it all because, as you can see, it's quite a lengthy thing. But it says here, Custer Post of Sheridan issued Memorial Day orders May 22nd. Following are the orders issued by Custer Post Number 5, GAR, Grand Army of the Republic, for the observance of Memorial Day. Headquarters, Custer Post Number 5, Department of Montana, GAR, General Order Number 1. Comrades will assemble at Post Hall on the morning of May 30th at 9 o'clock sharp in full uniform. All soldiers who wore the blue and the gray are cordially invited. By the order of OF Parameter Commander G.W. Reitner, Adjutant. Morning exercise, the line will form on Main Street right, resting on Hamilton Street, and march to the cemetery in the following order, commanded by OF Parameter, and it's led by the Sheridan Silver Cornet Band, and then the Custer Post number 5 GAR Post Firing Squad. I'm thinking, okay.
You think that was probably the squad that did the
I'm thinking color guard, and the color guard.
Yep.
And and then the Women's Relief Corps, and there was quite a few. They talk about the Women's Relief Corps. And now these are the women that served in the Civil War, and there's got to be 8 or 9 different branches there. And then it lists exercise at the cemetery will consist of the usual memorial services, and returning from cemetery, Sheridan Lodge number 20 AM will take the right of line march to their respective halls and dismiss. They also had afternoon services, and they also, and during these, I'm getting ahead of myself here, at 2:00, public services by the Custer Post. So one thing I've noticed about the early days of the commemoration of Memorial Day, how they commemorated it, how they honored it. It was a grand affair. It wasn't just like, let's get together for half an hour and we'll have a talk and an invocation, and then we'll say that's it. Go put the flags on. It was a major event.
Yeah, you can tell it was something that had been planned out for months before that. They would coordinate, because they didn't just have one post or one legion. Because I don't know if they were calling them American legions back then, but they would have different posts for like the women, the men, where they served and stuff. So, all these people would come together to organize this memorial. So, it was something that just was not thrown together at the spur of the moment.
No.
And if you think about it, they did not have a phone back then. It wasn't like they just picked up and called you.
No cell service?
No cell service.
As reported in the June 4th, 1909 edition of the Dillon Tribune, Memorial Day was observed in Dillon both Sunday and Monday. It was a 2-day affair. Memorial Day services were conducted at the Methodist Church by Reverend F.E. Dodds on Sunday, May 30th. It was reported that the services were standing room only. And that was because people that got late could not. Yeah. And they didn't have the little loudspeaker that they could sit outside the church. Because I've been to weddings and funeral services where there's so many people in the church that people say outside and listen to it. That didn't happen.
Yeah, and churches back then, they were designed, that's why there's such an echo in a church, is because that was the speaker. Was when you talked, it kind of echoed out through the church, but it was also designed, it didn't go past that. So if you were outside, you were probably just out there to more partake in it than actually hear it, because there would probably be no way they could hear it.
Well, and when you look at, we visualize, when we mention towns and or buildings and where stuff was, we visualize them is where they are today.
Yeah.
And downtown Dillon was a lot more wide open.
Yeah, it was
than it was then. know. Okay, so now after the services, members of the GAR, what's GAR, Jeremy? This is
Grand something Republic, Grand Army of the Republic.
There you go. And the WRC.
The WRC is.
We didn't really talk about that, so I can't.
Is it the Women's
Relief Corps? Relief Corps.
Okay.
And those were all the Civil War veterans. Then they had Spanish American War veterans because, you talked about wars coming and going.
Yeah.
Previously, we just talked about up until the Civil War. Well, you know what happened in 1898? They blew up the Maine, and Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders up San Juan Hill and everything else. And there was quite a contingent of Montanans that were, served in that war. So those veterans met in front of the courthouse and marched to the church where the seats were reserved for them. Now, the Tribune reported that Dodds preached a very able and appropriate sermon, and the music was excellent. So it's funny because, you know, a critic nowadays would be a lot more honest than
I love old news though. It's so interesting to listen to it. Like,
well, it's how they wrote, such flowery language and stuff. And I mean, well, we're gonna one of our upcoming things, we're gonna talk about baseball, and it's funny to listen to or to read those stories, a lot different, you know, and you almost get yourself in the middle. You know, Joe Blow made a majestic throw from up but that's another story. So on Monday, May 31st, the Tribune reported that all business houses, and they didn't call them stores, they called them business houses, were closed at noon in observance of Decoration Day. Now, this is what I find interesting. They're calling it Memorial Day services, but right in the middle of this, they throw in Decoration Day.
Yeah.
And so we're still at the time where people are calling it both, and obviously both were acceptable.
Do you think too it's kind of because they would decorate the graves and then they would hold a memorial service? Do you think that maybe they called it Decoration Day because they decorate the graves? So it was kind of like a two-part thing, and then Memorial was the memorial services held that day.
That's probably that's probably it, but it never says that. It never you know, it's because, you know, where it talks about the two, it says was originally called Decoration Day, but that actually makes perfect sense. So the Memorial Day exercises on Monday were conducted at the Methodist Church. And the GAR, the WRC, and the Spanish-American War veterans this time met at the public school grounds, where they were joined by school children and teachers and led to the church by the Dillon Brass Band. First time we've heard of them. I thought they would kind of pop in a little sooner than that.
Yeah.
Now, the Trib reported that there was a line of people, each carrying a small American flag that stretched 3 blocks, you know, from the school to the church. And the reporter noted it was truly an inspiring sight. And I imagine, I imagine. Now, the address for the Monday service was given by Reverend A.F. Culver, pastor of the Baptist Church, and he gave his address to another standing room only crowd. Culver's speech was reported to be one of the best addresses ever given in Dillon. I haven't had a bad review yet. In the afternoon, the groups marched to the Mountain View Cemetery, where the graves of not only departed soldiers, but nearly all other graves were beautifully decorated with large quantities of flowers, ferns, evergreens, and American flags. The day was reported as ideal ones, with clear skies and balmy weather prevailing. Now, before we move on, talk a little bit about our Mountain View Cemetery. It was listed by numerous historians as being one of the best in Montana, honoring the fallen soldiers of the Civil War. And they said, and I'm quoting an article out of the Great Falls Tribune a number of years ago, what is most striking about Mountain View Cemetery is its attention to veterans and the number of former Union soldiers buried within the cemetery. The standardized U.S. Army shield grave marker with the soldier's name and his unit listed is found in abundance at Mountain View through the older parts of the cemetery. Now, you spent some time, you're going to be talking a little bit later on about the most recent Memorial Day ceremonies, and you said you wanted to kind of go out and explore. Did you know that was called the American Legion plot? That's
I did.
The exact name? Yeah.
And I know they replaced the memorial up there a couple years ago, and I think the old one might have even called it that, if I remember right.
The soldier statue? Yeah, they had I believe they had a great Harvest Bread Day that raised the funds for that. So the most now continuing, the gentleman said the most remarkable tribute to the veterans at Mountain View Cemetery comes from the mid-20th century, a somber tree-lined path to veterans from more recent wars, heralded by a statue calling for freedom, honor, and justice, values that drove those federal soldiers in the Civil War and values that our veterans today take into fields of conflict around the world. Thank you, all veterans, for your service to our nation. So it's nice that it stands out that way. And I know I was talking with my coffee clatch this morning, and I was telling them what we were doing. And they had mentioned they thought there was either the VFW or the American Legion was coming out with new markers that really designated Civil War soldiers and Spanish-American War soldiers. They were a lot more specific. But it's interesting when you read the white gravestones out there, and they're hard to read.
They are.
They are hard to read, but they'll say, for example, Jeremy Crawford, 5th Regiment, 7th Illinois.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to read that because the Civil War, in my mind, is still in the history book.
Yeah, and there's we have the veterans plots out there, but they are also mixed in with their family plots. So I mean, like when you go up there on Memorial Day, you can actually see, like, you already see this vast expanse of graves in the veterans section. But then they go ahead and they put a flag on the veterans' graves that aren't in there also. And it really opens up your eyes to seeing how many of these people actually served in some form for our country.
Yes, and we thank them for that.
Yep.
And we're going to take another break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to kind of go through the years. Not all the years, because we have 120 of them, but talk about a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 of some of the ceremonies, the Memorial Day ceremonies in Dillon. And we'll be back right after this.
All righty.
Well, as we get back to looking at Memorial Day observances in Dillon, we go back to May 30th, 1903. All businesses agreed to close between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. Now, veterans gathered at the bandstand, and I can't find out, I have trouble finding out where the bandstand was.
Yeah.
But they gathered at the bandstand, and our Legion post was called the Stedman Post. And once again, the veterans, the GAR, the WRC, Stedman number 11. So the WRC had their own post title, Spanish-American War Veterans. And now this enters in, for the first time, Area Militia or National Guard. But they called them Area Militia and local school children. That group would march to the Dillon Theater. Remember where the Dillon Theater was? From our theater days.
This is right over here, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. For services. So Reverend Dr. Martin, now that's an interesting, the paper said he was not a reverend or a doctor, he was a reverend doctor. Martin gave the invocation, Reverend S.D. Hooker, and I think, didn't he have something to do with the library too, as I remember?
He did.
Or his wife maybe had a lot to do with it?
Yes.
Well, he read the Gettysburg Address. That's what he did at the services. And Reverend R.P. Smith gave the main address. Afterward, the groups marched to the cemetery where the graves of all Union, Confederate, Spanish-American War, and other veterans, as well as the friends and relatives of private citizens, will be decorated. Now, this just goes to show that it is moving away from being a strictly, honoring the war dead. Yeah. We're looking at all our family members. In 1921, part of the festivities included the unveiling of a new American flag at the courthouse. In 1925, area businesses sponsored patriotic messages in the Dillon Tribune, and I happen to have a couple of them. The Tribune Publishing Company said it was called Memorial Day Worthy of Trust. Services without regard to personal safety or gain is deserving of all honor and reverence we can bestow. Our soldiers of all wars gave such service freely. They gave to us one of the greatest nations in the world. Ours is sacred duty today. We have ideals of government, of the people, by the people, for the people to sustain. In our giving, let us not forget that those before us did not falter when their duty called. We are proud to honor those brave souls. Small as acts and thoughts may be, the mere pausing annually to place a flower, a flag, and utter a prayer of thankfulness, let it be worthy of the trust given us. That was Memorial Day in 1925. Here's one that was in 1918. I had my order arranged, but it was basically the same thing. 1918, the Elio brothers, and there's a little, no photograph. There's a nice, very nice pen and ink drawing of Memorial Day and basically honoring our fallen soldiers and whatnot. And here's another one from 1925, Bravehearts, Courageous Souls, Lasting Memories. And Elio's mentioned that this store will be closed on Memorial Day, Saturday, May 30th. The McCracken Brothers Men's Store also put a patriotic saying in the paper. And Elio's, they didn't put one, they put two in. So they did a lot in those early days to show just how important we need for Memorial Day to be observed. Now, in 1928, this is a date that's a little shaky. The American Legion plot was given to the Legion by the city of Dillon. Now, as I looked at it, some people talk about it was 1926, some say 1927, but there was a column written by the Legion, and they talked about 1928, so I'm going to go with 1928. And it was a designated area for all veterans of all wars to be interred. In 1937, the American Legion Post Number 20 held a twilight Memorial Day service on Memorial Eve, rather on Memorial Day. The program was designed to end just as the sun is setting in the west. Now, on a personal note, my grandfather, Walter Stamm, was on the Legion's program committee for organizing that event. My grandfather served in World War I. In 1941, a new flagpole was erected at the American Legion plot of the Mountain View Cemetery. In 1946, the first Memorial Day services were held after World War II. Services were set for 7:30 p.m. at Mountain View Cemetery with the high school auditorium as the backup of location in lieu of bad weather. You notice they've gone away from having daytime services and church services to services right at the cemetery. And they are in the twilight. And you are taking a chance in Montana in May about being rained out, or in some cases snowed out, I guess, considering what happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a week or 2 weks before Labor Day, we had a foot of snow.
Yeah, we went in about 10, 11 days.
It was a week.
We went from spring to summer to winter and back to spring again. So, and now we're in the heat of summer. In 1953, on the front page of the Dillon Tribune, the marching order of the Memorial Day Parade. And I noticed they didn't have a parade every year.
No.
Some years they did. Now, this parade featured the VFW Color Guard. Now, that's the first mention of the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars. That's the first mention I saw of them, and representatives of the American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary. But then again, I'm going from 1946 to 1953. So I'm thinking something might have happened in those 7 years in between. They also had the Elks Drum and Bugle Corps, and that was a feature of a lot of parades for a lot of years, and it's kind of disappeared. There was VFW from Dillon and Lima. And there was the VFW Auxiliary, plus Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts. And this is interesting, Civil Air Patrol. That was a representative of the 1953 parade. In 1969, Memorial Day services were set for 7 p.m. at the Mountain View Cemetery on Wednesday, May 20th, and on Thursday, May 30th, flags were placed on veterans' graves. Very simple.
Yeah.
As I noticed, the services were very extravagant or very simple, but very heartfelt and emotional. Now, here's one of my favorite ones. In 1978, Dillon postmaster Bruce Waters, and you're old enough to remember Bruce Waters, I think. Your parents would know him. Postmaster, they owned the Oasis Cafe.
Okay.
Good guy. He delivered the Memorial Day address. In his address, he noted that Memorial Day now honored all of our dead, not only our military dead, but those who pioneered and built our nation. We honor our mothers and fathers and all loved ones who have departed. And then Waters challenged Dillon residents to step forward and build by dedicating themselves as a living memorial. Young and old, rich or poor, there is a way you can help, Waters said. Challenge yourself to do your part. If you are rich, use your resources. Help a young person through college. If you are poor, use your talent or labor to make our community a better place. He closed with, don't sit back and criticize. Step forward and build. Step forward and do your part. Now, that last sentence, we need that yelled out loud right now in these times right now. Moving on, we're going to jump way up to 2003. Now, this is kind of a cool event because in 2003, the annual Memorial Day services began at 11:30 a.m. at the Soldier Statue at the Mountain View Cemetery. Retired Commander Sergeant, and let me start over again. 2003 is a special day. It's a special day. A couple of different things happened. And we're going to go back, or we're going to start at the beginning. And at 11:30 a.m. at the Soldier Statue at the Mountain View Cemetery, retired Commander Sergeant Major Marty Malasich was the speaker. The Southwest Montana Veterans Memorial made its debut. That's what I was trying to say. The memorial, the brainchild of Dillon's Ronnie Lake, provides a permanent salute to the hundreds of men and women from our area who served in the United States military. Now, special guests were U.S. Representative Denny Rehberg and Montana Lieutenant Governor Carl Oz. They were among the featured speakers. Also, 2003 marked the return of the Memorial Day Parade. Over the years, parades were a part of the Memorial Day observance, but the 2000 parade was the first in many years, and it was sponsored by the White Hat Coalition, and they continue to this day of having a Memorial Day parade. It's not always a big parade, but you gotta hand it to the White House, the White Hat Coalition, because they are trying to keep that spirit of what Memorial Day is all about alive and going. And what better than with a parade?
And one of the main people, too, that you see in that parade is the Montana Youth Challenge. Every year they're in it. So that's a good thing to see that.
Yes. So thank you, Stan Smith and the White Hat Coalition. And we're going to take another break, but then we're going to be back. And speaking of Memorial Day, Jeremy's going to review the 2021 Memorial Day. And we'll do that right after this.
All right. Stevens Greenhouse and Floral would like to remind you that we are fully stocked for all your spring planting needs.
We're back in our final segment of our Did You Know Southwestern Montana, our look at Memorial Day in Dillon in Southwestern Montana. Jeremy, you had a busy Memorial Day weekend. You were traveling about. Luckily, the weather was nice, but you attended several of the events going on. How about a quick wrap-up of how Memorial Day 2021?
Yeah, this year it was pretty busy Memorial Day, actually. And, you know, it was kind of nice because the weather cooperated. I don't know how many times as a kid, Memorial Day was always a rainy, soggy weekend.
Or snowy. I remember snowing Memorial Day, too.
Yep. But this year's Memorial Day, you know, it started out actually Friday. They decorated the graves. And is what they do is they go up there, and for all the veterans that are in the cemetery, they put an American flag next to their grave. That was pretty neat to see because it's pretty much all volunteers that do it. And then, you know, Monday on Memorial Day, Chuck Thompson gave a speech up at the cemetery, up at Mountain View Cemetery. You know, and he kind of did the same thing we did. You know, he said most people anymore think that this weekend is just
a 3-day weekend.
A 3-day weekend to welcome in summer. And he said, you know, that's not what it is. He kind of gave a quick rundown of what it was, which was kind of like how we did. And Chuck threw in a little bit of Chuck's humor where he said that, you know, the politicians deciding how it should be put it on a Monday so we could have a 3-day holiday and not a fixed date.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So it's always, you know, the last Monday in May. Again, so we could have that 3-day holiday.
So they could have the 3-day holiday.
Yeah. Yep. And like you said, you know, there's some companies out there that actually give you Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. I have yet to find one of those companies. But, you know, he gave a really good speech, you know, and then they had the gun salute, you know. And one thing that most people, I don't know if you've ever noticed, on Memorial Day, the flags are at half-mast. And they start out at half-mast, then at noon, they raise it to full-mast.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and that was something that they did up there. And then shortly thereafter, the Veterans Memorial, Southwest Montana Veterans Memorial, I think it was around noon, they had a rededication of the flags. You know, Ronnie Lake and those guys, they had a fundraiser where they were asking people to donate money or buy a flag of their choice to represent one of the branches of the armed forces. I bought the Space Force flag because, you know, it's kind of a cool new thing. And
U.S. Navy.
You bought the Navy one, and, you know, they were lucky enough that the town came together and they have enough to cover them after these ones wear out.
Well, another person came ahead and bought all the flags to put in the back room for when they need to be replaced. They've already got them ready to go.
And then some people that donated money for the upkeep of the park, because I'm sure that park has a lot of upkeep. And, you know, the amazing thing about that park is it's a Southwest Montana Veterans Memorial, but it's you don't have to be dead to have a brick on there. You know, if you go and you look at the bricks, there's names of people that have served in, you know, all kinds of the different wars throughout the years. I talked to Skip, and he showed me his brick. And then right after that, Stan Smith and the White Hat Coalition, they had a memorial dedicated, or rededicated, I should say. So this memorial set over by the post office at the church right across the street.
Baptist Church, I believe.
Baptist Church, I think it is. And it was a World War II memorial for those of the community that served during World War II. So what they did is they moved it. I'm not sure why they had to move it, but they did. But it was in needing of repair and cleaning. So they had it repaired, cleaned, and brought back to its original form, and they put it at the Kiwanis Park, which is
right next.
Is it part of it, or
it's all the same. It's all the same park.
It's all the same. It's right across the street from Big Sky Cinema and McDonald's. They put it over there, and they had a dedication to it. This dedication, they had the Montana Youth Challenge with them, and I don't know what they call the platoon for sure, but they do rifle drills. So they, like when you see in the Marines where they spin the gun and do the salutes and stuff like that, these guys did a good 5-10 minute display. And it was impressive. Those kids should be proud of themselves. And I will put links in this video so people can watch this, because I did do from beginning to end of Memorial Day. But yeah, very, very good show to watch. It was well worth going down there and seeing it. And while I was up at the cemetery, Skip came up to me and he said, "Hey, they're doing Taps Across America. It's something new this year. I want to do it." Skip plays taps at all the funerals. You play taps up at that ceremony. Skip is a Vietnam veteran, and he's also Native American. And he said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Just tell me where to meet, Skip, and I'll be there." So he said, "It's 3 o'clock, Taps Across America. So 3 o'clock your time, you go out, you go to a flag, and you play taps on Memorial Day. It's something new that they're starting." So we went down to the Veterans Memorial, and we live streamed it, and he played about a minute of taps, and it was very moving.
That's great. And we're going to feature a little bit about that. We also have Mike Miller, who is going to read a patriotic poem that was actually written in the early days of Memorial Day festivities, the early days. And it's interesting how it changes, but it doesn't change.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed in all the research is everybody talked about, and you touched on it too, that, we started out with honoring Civil War veterans.
Yeah.
Then it was Spanish-American War veterans. Then it was World War I veterans. Then it was World War II veterans. And we would rather not have to keep adding wars to the collection of honoring the fallen. But it is what it is. And we're so lucky and blessed to have those folks defending us.
Yeah.
A long ways from home, a long ways from Montana, a long ways from everywhere. And that was the message that I got. It changed, but it didn't change.
Exactly.
The script, how they wrote the script changed. And we've talked about the flowery language they've used. But, Bruce Waters hit the nail right on the head on how we need to behave. And he said that in 1978. That's when he gave his address. So it's very important that we remember we don't have to like war. You don't have to like war. Nobody likes war. I was a romantic war fan until my dad told me that there's nothing romantic about war. He said no matter what war movie you see, you have to multiply it 100,000 times worse before it becomes reality.
Yeah.
And he was right. So this is very important. This is very important. I'm going to get off the soapbox. And but this was, when you and I were batting around ideas and what we wanted to do on Memorial Day was a little ways, it was a week or so away, and it just dawned on us that, hey, that's what we need to do it on. Yeah. That's what we need to do it on. And
we're running a little late on it, but we put a lot of work into these. What you guys see is maybe an hour of us talking, but there's a couple days research into it. We both have kind of hectic schedules, and just something that we put out there for the people, just kind of to let people know about what Southwestern Montana is through history.
Yeah,
and
we're both history nuts, so it's nice. It's nice to educate the folks that maybe aren't sure about what's going on. Yep. And we have a ton of new people in Dillon that have chosen Dillon all of a sudden for their hometown.
We do. And even those that have grown up in Dillon, lots of them don't realize the rich history that's in Dillon.
It's amazing for just a town that's, I guess we have to go back to the 1860s when Bannock and Virginia City and whatnot were, Alder Gulch and all that, because that's where it all came from. start. And we haven't even got close to touching about stuff. We've talked about the hot topics, the really interesting ones that everybody talks about, the Labor Day plane crash. We've talked about Sawtooth Lake. These things that people know about. Now it's time to we can start digging and finding out maybe the unknown stuff. It's like, I did not know when I was doing this research that it was called the American Legion plot. I had no idea it was called. I just thought it was, designated, but it's, and the soldier statue, a couple of years ago, they had a Great Harvest Bread fundraiser that raised enough money to put a new statue up, which is another example of the community getting together and making things better.
Yeah, exactly. And, a lot of the stuff you see around Dillon, Southwest Montana Veterans Memorial, that was just, that was somebody's dream, and they put it together and they did it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the new statue up there at the cemetery, the other one, weather took hold of it and ruined it. And, Great Harvest had a bake day and they got their replacement.
Where is the old one, I wonder?
I don't know. I wonder that too.
In somebody's living room or?
I think it might have been beyond repair.
Oh, well, we have harsh weather.
There was one of those pine trees that lined that drive up there at the cemetery. That last big windstorm, we got it twisted in half and broke it off. So that gives you an idea how hard that wind can blow up there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it sits on a little hill.
Yeah.
It sits on a little hill, but it's nice. We salute you if you served.
We do.
We thank you.
We do.
Whether you served in the military or whether as a police officer, or a fireman, we thank you because you take care of us.
Yeah. And the firemen, the policemen, everybody that, puts
ambulance
their personal
drivers.
Safeties, off to the side. You do not realize what they do day in and day out until you start listening for those stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's an eye-opener.
And they don't ask for anything.
No.
Otherwise, except better equipment to do their job better. That's what they want. Which is maybe we should look at that someday.
Yeah.
The police and fire and ambulance.
Now the history of the Dillon Volunteer Fire Department, the history of the police department.
I think we just found another, did you know?
I think we did.
Yeah, yeah.
Best part is the museum's open and we have access to their archives.
Yes, and which will open up more stories we can get. Except the only thing, that I don't like about it is because in the past when I've been digging in the archives, they've been digital archives, so my hands aren't going to get dirty. But now we're going to be going down and finding the real live archives. Yeah. The real live.
Yep.
The papers and everything else. But anyway, we've kind of gone on a little bit past, we get off on ourselves. We're entitled, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah, every once in a while. But we want to thank all the people that watch.
Yeah.
And we want to ask once again, if you think of a topic you would like us to cover, something that you didn't know about Dillon, then
let us know.
Yes. And in closing, my thoughts are, you remember the Grader one we did on A.F. Grader, one of Dillon's early pioneers and leaders? We need to get a street named after him.
We should.
There's not a Grader.
Anybody's doing a subdivision around Dillon and you want to name one of your streets Grader Street?
Yeah.
We'd love to see that.
Yes, and we'll tell you how to spell it correctly. So until we get together again, we want to thank you for watching. I'm Wally Felt, Jeremy Crawford, my partner in crime, and we're good outlaws.
And we'll leave you with this poem.
Yes. Good night.
Good night.
Softly the south wind comes from haunts afar, and brings its charm to waiting hills and vales. But now it is not redolent of war, of gruesome horrors and heartbreaking tales. For peace, with her fair white-lifted wings, reigns now unhindered, east, west, north, and south. The green spring turf onto the plowshare clings, and cobwebs lace the brazen cannon's mouth. No more are serried hosts of battle drawn, no more brothers matched in bloody strife. The tragic, devastating war is gone, and a new era dawns to stir the life of this great nation. to uplift the race, to forward freedom, to enhance man, to give the lowliest a chance and a place for each to do the very best he can. Not in the realms of ancient Rome or Greece, nor in the idol of utopia can there be found or pictured states like these, or any more power of such benignant sway. But this brave land sprang not at once, full-born, nor found its heritage without a price, through battle's blaze, through toil and hate and scorn, our great republic had its glorious rise. Today, we meet to honor those whose scars and death were given that freedom should not die. Heroes of dark, blood-red, and cruel wars who won for us the final victory. Bring from fair gardens and the mountainside flowers for their graves touched with the south wind's breath, that their blessed deeds may in our hearts abide, and honor crown their sacrificial death. Fling out the flag, let speech and music flow. May grateful hearts pause, and the wealth of May be brought for tribute till the whole world know the impact of Memorial Day.